No, it's the worst chapter of all time. I'm already upset. Charlie was waiting up for me. I stole the first line, but I'm already upset by it. Waiting up for her! Like how sweet, he's just waiting up for his little girl. Okay, whatever, it's fine, just read it.
Chapter 19, Goodbyes. Charlie was waiting up for me. All the house lights were on. My mind was blank as I tried to think of a way to make him let me go. This wasn't going to be pleasant. Edward pulled up slowly, staying well back from my truck.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yes. The engine cut off, and I sat motionless as they continued to listen. He's not here, Edward said tersely. Let's go. Emmett reached over to help me get out of the harness. Don't worry, Bella. I just got a text message. Sorry. Don't worry, Bella, he said in a low but cheerful voice. We'll take care of things here quickly. I felt moisture filling up my eyes as I looked at Emmett. I barely knew him, and yet somehow, not knowing when I would see him again after tonight was anguishing. I knew this was just a faint taste of the goodbyes I would have to survive in the next hour, and the thought made the tears begin to spill. Alice, Emmett. Edward's voice was a command. They slithered.
Yeah, I'm like, some of her, adjectives and stuff choices are a little...
Edward opened my door and took my hand. He walked me swiftly toward the house, eyes always roving through the night. 15 minutes, he warned under his breath. I can do this. I sniffled. My tears had given me an inspiration.
Liar tears.
Liar tears. I stopped on the porch and took hold of his face in my hands. I looked fiercely into his eyes. I love you, I said in an intense, low voice. I will always love you, no matter what happens now. Just follow the plan, okay? Keep Charlie safe for me. He's not going to like me very much after this, and I want to have the chance to apologize later. Does she, though?
Yeah, really.
I don't even remember. Does she apologize?
I don't know. That is a good question. I don't remember if she apologizes to Charlie, though. I think he just shows up and he's like, ah! And she's just like, where's Edward?
Where's my boyfriend of 3 days? One more thing, I whispered passionately. Don't listen to another word I say tonight. He was leaning in, and so all I had to do was stretch up on my toes to kiss his surprised, frozen lips. Then I turned and kicked the door open. Ugh!
There's so many questions about that whole sentence.
Go away, Edward, I yelled at him, running inside and slamming the door shut in his still shocked face. Bella? Charlie had been hovering in the living room and was already on his feet. Leave me alone, I screamed at him through my tears. I ran up the stairs to my room, throwing the door shut and locking it. I ran to my bed, flinging myself on the floor to retrieve my duffel bag. Charlie was pounding on my door. Bella, are you okay? What's going on? His voice was frightened. I'm going home, I shouted, my voice breaking in the perfect spot. Did he hurt you? No, I shrieked a few octaves higher. No! I turned to my dresser and Edward was already there, silently yanking out armfuls of random clothes, which he proceeded to throw to me. Did he break up with you? Charlie was perplexed. No, I yelled. Edward threw another drawer's contents at me. I broke up with him, I shouted back, jerking on the zipper of my bag. Edward's capable hands pushed mine away and zipped it smoothly. I'll be in the truck. Go, he whispered and pushed me toward the door. I unlocked the door and pushed past Charlie roughly, struggling with my heavy bag as I ran down the stairs. What happened? He yelled. I thought you liked him. He caught my elbow in the kitchen. Though he was still bewildered, his grip was firm. He spun me around to look at him, and I could see in his face that he had no intention of letting me leave. I could think of only one way to escape, and it involved I'm sorry. You gotta let me get through this sentence. Hide behind the dog. I could think of only one way to escape, and it involved hurting him so much that I hated myself for even considering it. But I had no time, and I had to keep him safe. Okay. I glared up at my father, fresh tears in my eyes for what I was about to do. I do like him. That's the problem. I can't do this anymore. I can't put down any more roots here. I don't want to end up trapped in this stupid, boring town like Mom. I'm not going to make the same dumb mistake that she did. I hate it. I can't stay here for another minute. His hand dropped from my arm like I'd electrocuted him. Hair looks like I've been electrocuted.
Charlie!
His hand dropped from my arm like I'd electrocuted him. I turned away from his shocked, wounded face and headed for the door. Bells, you can't leave now. It's nighttime, he whispered behind me. I didn't turn around. Just wait another week, he pled, still shell-shocked. Renee will be back by then. What? Things aren't going so well in Florida, and if Phil doesn't get signed by the end of the week, they're going back to Arizona. Every passing second put Charlie in more danger. I have a key, I muttered, turning the knob. He was too close. One hand extended toward me, his face dazed. I couldn't lose any more time arguing with him. I was going to have to hurt him farther. Just let me go, Charlie. I repeated my mother's last words as she'd walked out this same door so many years ago.
How would she know that? How old was she when they left? Because is this a story her mom tells her? And then the last thing I
said when I walked out the door.
her too. Only a few months
3 months old.
Is there like a dark version of fanfic where you just write stories to kill all the characters you don't like?
That's just fanfic, but you just make sure to tag it. Just let me go, Charlie. I repeated my mother's last words as she'd walked out this same door so many years ago. It didn't work out, okay? I really, really hate forks. My cruel words did their job. Charlie stayed frozen on the doorstep, stunned, while I ran into the night. I was hideously frightened of the empty yard. I ran wildly for the truck, visualizing a dark shadow behind me. I threw my bag in the bed and wrenched the door open. "I'll call tomorrow," I yelled, wishing more than anything that I could explain everything to him right now, knowing I would never be able to. I gunned the engine and peeled out. Edward reached for my hand. "Pull over. I can drive," I said through the tears pouring down my cheeks.
Liar tears.
Liar!
Liar!
His long hands unexpectedly gripped my waist, and his foot pushed mine off the gas pedal. He pulled me across his lap, wrenching my hands free of the wheel, and suddenly he was in the driver's seat.
Alright, this is a dangerous maneuver, but I guess it's fine.
The truck didn't swerve an inch.
But he would have had to do that in like super vampire speed, like.
Oh, absolutely. And wouldn't she like get whiplash or something?
It's true, and like her hands being ripped off that quick, like. Woo.
Yeah, like snap, 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 bang my head on everything. Are you
Yeah, like
kidding
she wouldn't
me?
have a chance to release. It would just snap her fingers.
Lights flared suddenly behind us. I stared out the back, eyes wide with horror. "It's just Alice," he assured me. "The tracker? The tracker followed us. He's running behind us now." My body went cold. Can we outrun him? No, but he sped up as he spoke. The truck's engine whined in protest. I was staring back at Alice's headlights when the truck shuddered and a dark shadow sprung up outside the window. My blood-curdling scream lasted a fraction of a second before Edward's hand clamped down on my mouth. "It's Emmett!"
Idiot.
We raced through the quiet town toward the North Highway. "Bella, it's going to be all right." "But it won't be all right when I'm not with you," I whispered.
Honestly.
"Bella!" He turned off onto the invisible drive with Alice following behind. We drove right up to the house. The lights inside were bright, but they did little to alleviate the blackness of the encroaching forest. Emmett had my door open before the truck was stopped. He pulled me out of the seat, hucked me like a football into his vast chest, and ran me through the door.
What? Especially like swooping up her legs and like.
Why do all of these vampires hold her in the fetal position? We burst into the large white room, Edward and Alice at our sides. All of them were there. They were already on their feet at the sound of our approach. Laurent stood in their midst. "He's tracking us," Edward announced, glaring balefully at Laurent. Laurent's face was unhappy. "I was afraid of that. What will he do?" Carlyle asked Laurent in chilling tones. "I'm sorry," he answered. "I was afraid, when your boy there defended her, that it would set him off. Can you stop him?" Laurent shook his head. "Nothing stops James when he gets started." "We'll stop him," Emmett promised. There was no doubt what he meant. "You can't bring him down. I've never seen anything like him in my 300 years. That's why I joined his coven." His coven, I thought. The show of leadership in the clearing was merely that. A show. Laurent was shaking his head. He glanced at me, perplexed, and back to Carlyle. "Are you sure it's worth it?" Edward's enraged roar filled the room. Laurent cringed back. Carlyle looked gravely at Laurent. "I'm afraid you're going to have to make a choice." Laurent understood. His eyes took in every face and finally swept the bright room. "I'm intrigued by the life you've created here. I won't get in the middle of this. I bear none of you any enmity, but I won't go up against James. He's got a brilliant mind and unparalleled senses. He's every bit as comfortable in the human world as you seem to be, and he won't come at you head on. I'm sorry for what's been unleashed here. Truly sorry." Laurent took another long look around himself and then hurried out the door. The silence lasted less than a second. "How close?" Carlyle looked to Edward. "About 3 miles out past the river. He's circling around to meet up with the female." "What's the plan?" "We'll lead him off, and then Jasper and Alice will run her south." "And then?" Edward's tone was deadly. "As soon as Bella is clear, we hunt him." "I guess there's no other choice," Carlyle agreed, his face grim. Edward turned to Rosalie. "Get her upstairs and trade clothes," Edward commanded. She stared back at him with livid disbelief. "Why would I? What is she to me, except a menace? A danger you've chosen to inflict on all of us." He looked away from Rosalie as if she hadn't spoken, as if she didn't exist. "Esme?" he asked calmly. Esme was at my side in half a heartbeat, swinging me up easily into her arms and dashing up the stairs before I could gasp in shock. Why does everyone feel like they need to throw her around? She can walk.
Yeah.
What are we doing? I asked breathlessly as she set me down in a dark room somewhere off the second-story hall. Trying to confuse the smell. It won't work for long, but it might help you get out. I quickly stripped my jeans off myself. She handed me something. It felt like a shirt. As soon as I was done, she handed me her slacks. I yanked them on. Somehow she was already in my clothes. She pulled me back to the stairs where Alice stood, a small leather bag in one hand. They each grabbed one of my elbows and half carried me as they flew down the stairs. It appeared that everything had been settled downstairs in our absence. Edward and Emmett were ready to leave. Carlisle was handing something small to Esme. He turned and handed Alice the same thing. It was a tiny silver cell phone. They have burner phones! I was surprised to see that Carlisle intended to go with Edward. I realized suddenly with a stab of fear that they made up the hunting party. Alice, will they take the bait? Carlisle asked. He'll track you. The woman will follow the truck. We should be able to leave after that. Her voice was certain. Let's go. Carlisle began to walk toward the kitchen. We stood there, the others looking away from me as the tears streaked noiselessly down my face. The silent moment dragged on, and then Esme's phone vibrated in her hand. It flashed to her ear. Now, she said. Rosalie stalked out the front door without another glance in my direction, but Esme touched my cheek as she passed. Be safe. Her whisper lingered behind them as they slipped out the door. I heard my truck start thunderously and then fade away. Jasper and Alice waited. Alice's phone seemed to be at her ear before it buzzed. Edward says the woman is on Esme's trail. I'll get the car. She vanished into the shadows the way Edward had gone. Jasper and I looked at each other. I feel like this is like an awkward moment where it's like, we've never really spent time one-on-one, you and me, you know? Jasper and I looked at each other. He stood across the length of the entryway from me, being careful. You're wrong, you know, he said quietly. What? I gasped. I can feel what you're feeling now, and you are worth it. I'm not, I mumbled. If anything happens to them, it will be for nothing. You're wrong, he repeated, smiling kindly at me. I heard nothing, but then Alice stepped to the front door and came toward me with her arms held out. May I? She asked. You're the first one who's asked permission, I smiled wryly. She lifted me in her slender arms as easily as Emmett had, shielding me protectively, and then we flew out the door, leaving the lights bright behind us. It's the end of the chapter. I really love Book Jasper. I don't know why. I don't even remember his name. The guy who played him, like, you didn't give him any of... Jasper is this, like, surprisingly warm, empathetic character.
He just is focused on, like, have a pained expression. He was just like, hey, Bella!
Well, up next is Chapter 20, Impatience. Bye.
Bye.